I used to be that in Indiana until like maybe 10 years ago.
Wow. I think if in Georgia, I mean, some places. Yeah. Some gas stations wouldn't. But okay, we'll get started. Welcome to Pilgrimage of Light Teacher Onboarding / Dad Learning Time.
I was going to say, just to clarify, I'm not here.
Okay. That's what you think, Matt. And then by the end, we'll see.
Josiah's on his way too.
Oh, Josiah. It's like Josiah's on his way.
Yeah, I was a little confused at first.
So yeah, thank you guys for making this happen. It was a little bit of a short notice. So just really thankful. And so this has been a pretty cool journey. Like when this all came together this summer, I was like, we might have anywhere from like 2 families, and I wasn't sure how many families there would be. So now we're up to, I think, like 15 students, which has been, and now year 2, or yes, I think it's 15 with Clara and Eliana.
I think there was
might be
16 seats down there.
Okay.
There's one, I think it's 17.
Now it's 17. Okay. Like between 15 and 17. And so mainly Natalie and I have been kind of like making it through working with how do we manage 5-year-olds to 11-year-olds. And just, yeah, me continuing to feel the burden of like, man, it would be so nice to split into like more proper age groups, but I wasn't sure if it was going to happen this year or next year. And so we're going to try to make it happen this year. And so with that, I realized, okay, we need to kind of get a little bit more on the same page of what it looks like to teach and put together lesson plans and create kind of a space to ask a lot of questions, see where some stuckages might be, or just have a lot of dialogue today about things. And so the first part of today is going to be a little bit of educational theology and philosophy. If you know me, I just can't not talk about that. So just kind of humor me for a few minutes. A lot of this comes from the children's tradition, which is written by Amanda Foss. And I had a call with her about this, and she was like, just paste and copy whatever you want. So whenever you just see a page number, it's from this book. And I think I did write it down one time. But just know I have her permission to plagiarize it as much as I wanted to, which was very hard because I condensed it a lot. But so basically a little bit about my background is that I grew up in public education, government school, and enjoyed school, I thought. And then when we came overseas, I was like, I might need to homeschool. Didn't really know anything about that. He grew up being homeschooled until 9th grade. So he really wanted his kids to be homeschooled. And I was like,
this is our day.
Yeah, I was like, if you really want that, we probably shouldn't get married because I'm not ready to commit to that. Here we are.
My non-negotiables. I'm like,
yeah.
We're gonna homeschool our kids. She's like, well, then maybe we should get married. I'm like, maybe that's not a non-negotiable.
That's hilarious.
So work through that. But I knew with the Lord calling us overseas, homeschooling was probably going to need to be on my radar and an option. And lo and behold, here I am. 4 years into that, and
You're leading co-op.
yeah, leading a co-op. What is this? Anyways, so one of the questions I asked when I was getting into homeschooling is like, what is the point of education? Like, is education even from the Lord? Like, or is it just a part of a system that the government has created to say your children need to know these things to survive and make life work for them? And that kind of came out of a place of bitterness of like, if I'm going to have to homeschool my kids, I need to figure out like, what is the Lord's intent behind it? And so that got me on a search that got me into Charlotte Mason, which if you've been in the book club, we've talked a lot about Charlotte Mason and her philosophy and methodology, which we'll go through some today, or at least you'll experience today. But it wasn't until last year that I feel like it all really came together for me of understanding what is the Lord's intent for educating our kids and even like educating ourselves. Yeah, educating ourselves. So these first kind of 2 pages are kind of about that. It is really deep and there's a lot to meditate upon. So I'm going to kind of quickly read through it, but I just encourage you to go back later as the Lord prompts you to meditate even deeper on what all this means. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thanks. I'm like, no, I was like, thought it was perfect. But yeah, great. Yeah, that'd be great, babe.
Okay, first, starting at the top. Every education presupposes a philosophy, a reasoned basis for the methods chosen. And that basis is a set of particular beliefs about the nature of reality, the world, and human beings. What is nefarious about modern education is that it claims to be objective and unbiased while being based upon philosophical naturalism, the belief that the natural world and its laws are the sole reality and that there is no supernatural or spiritual realm, which is both atheistic and humanistic in nature. To leave God out of the equation of education is to have made a subjective choice, and truly the most destructive educational choice imaginable.
So I had no idea what philosophical naturalism was. So I looked it up and put it in there as well for you guys. But it basically explains like every methodology of education has a philosophy that is guiding how you educate. And so once again, coming from a very like public school background, secular background, this just kind of speaks to, it says like we're completely unbiased, but what they really do is just take God out of the picture, out of education. And so the point I would like to make is kind of that even if you've grown up in a Christian home, even there is something about us being born post-Enlightenment that our worldview is not as spiritual as how people viewed life and education pre-Enlightenment. And so there is just probably some aspects of this to varying degrees that we all have grown up with that are just the way we've been taught to think from childhood. But that's going to vary depending on the kind of family you grew up in and what education you had growing up. So we'll keep reading. Yeah.
Someone else want to read the next one?
True education, because it is based upon reality as it really is inherently religious and, even more specifically, inherently Christian. John Sr. laid out 4 theological anchors that ground classical Christian education. Number 1, God exists, therefore it is a necessary order in nature and in all sciences and arts that study and imitate nature. Number 2, God reveals, therefore there is a necessary content to knowledge. 3, God saves, therefore his incarnation is the means by which we participate in his life. That participation is the end of all human existence. And number 4, supposing God exists, reveals, and saves, the curriculum becomes a definite course of work that leads to worship.
Expansion and practice of love is ultimately preparation and nurture in a life of communion with God. So basically, we're wanting to bring our children along in how to relate to the world, how to relate to God, how to relate to their neighbor, and that being the goal of education. So I'll stop there for a minute. Any questions, or that was a lot, or or for me, this is kind of like, yeah, duh, like, like we're all believers. We when I read this, I'm like, yes, that makes a lot of sense. So then I'm kind of like, how are we supposed to do that? So
yeah, I never thought about like kind of public school setting, or even if you do homeschool but you choose to do it in a more secular way, you are choosing to leave God out. Like, it's a choice. It's not just like, I just take this curriculum with God in it. It's like, you either choose to put God in it or you choose to leave him out. And I never thought about that, like, in the world, that most schools choose to leave him out, and that it's a choice. I always kind of thought, like, they're just unbiased, like, they're just neutral. But it really is like a choice. And so if that really is a choice that they're making, how much more should my choice to put God in be so, thought upon and planned and purposeful. I don't want to just like put God in our curriculum passively because I'm a Christian, that's what I should do. But it should be filled with purpose and intent, and it's because it's choice. So that was really good for my heart.
That's good. Can you give a practical example of how education leads to worship? Like,
We're gonna experience it.
Okay. Great. Just wait.
Hold on. All right. So the next question is kind of like, okay, well, how do we do that? So then this is kind of a methodology called the poetic mode. Can someone read that? Well,
I'll read it.
okay. Like, you probably don't want to hear me all the time.
Poetic knowledge is a pre-rational, non-analytical mode of learning that begins when a person experiences wonder. Read the quote?
Yeah. He likes the quote.
I like this quote. Poetry, this is by G.K. Chesterton. Poetry is sane because it floats easily in an infinite sea. Reason seeks to cross the infinite sea and so make it finite. The result is mental exhaustion, like the physical exhaustion of Mr. Holbein. We don't know who Mr. Holbein is.
I don't know who that is.
To accept everything is an exercise. To understand everything is a strain. The poet only asks to get his head into the heavens. It is the logician who seeks to get the heavens into his head, and it is his head that splits. Keep going.
No. Yeah, so, okay, maybe keep going.
I can share what I like about that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I was telling Audrey, like, I read that last night, and I feel like reading that quote gave me freedom to not have to figure out the boundaries of everything. Because I normally try to be like, okay, well, what's the limit on this? I normally try to bring the heavens down into my head, and then I experience that feeling of my head splitting or exhaustion. But I feel like that quote just kind of gave me freedom of like, there is times to just let your mind go into the heavens, even thinking about God, like mind go into the heavens and not have to have it all figured out, and just realize maybe it could be figured out, but it's like, I don't have to figure it out right now. And I was like, that's kind of a cool feeling, cool idea.
And so obviously there is a place for logic, there is a place for investigation, for analytical thinking, but once again, coming from a public school background where that is the main mode of education, that is the main mode of how we look at everything. Even a Shakespeare story, it's like, do you remember when he wrote it, what the setting was, what the plot was? You know, it takes the beauty out of the actual story. So this is kind of swinging to the opposite end of how do we create poetic, kind of define it a little bit more. How do we create these experiences to give our children, especially in these early years?
The wonder.
Yeah.
Keep reading.
Does anyone else want to read?
All right. We want our students to experience and receive their education as opposed to conquering it. Obtaining knowledge is the basis of using it and or producing something with it. So we are not speaking just of poetry here or even a deeper understanding of it, but rather a poetic, sensory, emotional experience of the reality. This is what Christ did for us. He became a man, dwelt among us, and gave us through his sacrifice the means of participating in his own life, which we call eternal life. Jesus brought about, through the incarnation, a harmony with our soul and body experience. Humanity is made for the stars, but rooted in the soil. Father Francis Bethel. The poetic mode is how we ourselves learn how to live rightly in the world and how we guide our children to as well. Let their education lead them to prayer and worship as we and they experience eternal life through the incarnate Christ.
So once again, I love that imagery of Christ being God, coming down to earth, showing us how to live in the soil, and yet we were made for the stars. Like, we were made for a different earth, a different heaven, but we still have to learn, how do we live in the soil? How do we learn our 2 + 2 = 4? How do we learn 360 degrees makes a circle? There are still things that are very important on this earth that we need to learn and that our kids need to learn. And Christ made that example for us, of teaching us how to live on this earth. Okay, and so the first step in starting to live out this poetic mode of life and education is that we do this by we ourselves having eyes to see, to be delighted, and to love. We do not expect our students to be moved to attend and love that which we ourselves have not devoted time to look and love. Like a lover, we gaze upon an object and are satisfied by the truth, goodness, and or beauty it contains for its own sake. So, once again, like, educating our children kind of starts with us educating ourselves and living out discipleship and life in a way that we experience it first, and then they're able to receive that experience from us. So, so our guide as parent teachers is to provide poetic experiences for our students where they get to engage with a course of good work, that day's lesson, that ultimately leads them to wonder. The second guide is to create an atmosphere of a receptive mode of learning, and then practices like narration aid students in the skill of real listening, making sure that they have really understood or stood under an idea before adding their own thoughts or rebuttals. So as I was trying to bring all this together, I was like, I think those are the 2 points that I really would love for us all to be on the same page on. It's even if the lessons aren't all the same, creating this poetic experience for our students that leads them to wonder and engaging in a receptive mode of learning would be awesome. So then getting even more practical, I just made a list of minimum Charlotte Mason lesson requirements. So, and we're gonna see this in all the different subjects that we go through the rest of the time. But the first part is to review what was covered in the previous class. Second part is a presentation of a capstone idea, what will be covered in today's class. So a capstone idea is basically a little taste test of what's coming for the kids to get them engaged and excited for what they're gonna learn that day. Get their curiosity kind of going. And then the third part is the new lesson given. And the last part is a narration time to end the class. And then I did kind of the time. It really doesn't take you 2 minutes to say a captain idea, but just to kind of give you an idea. It's kind of different timings of the parts. Okay, now we're gonna jump into artist study. Are there any questions before we move on?
Now, if all that just went over our head, if as a teacher we're supposed to provide a poetic experience and we're supposed to create an atmosphere of receptive mode of learning, if that doesn't make sense, is that okay? Or
Yes.
should we have that figured out?
No, I'm totally okay. I'm still figuring it out myself. So, yeah. Do you have any like practical questions? But I know, I think just you seeing it down will be the most helpful.
Well, it sounds like an atmosphere of receptive mode of learning, like how to do that. One form is narration.
Yeah.
Okay, so narration connects that. And then what's the form for providing the poetic experience?
So how we give the lesson, which is kind of what we'll,
And that's what we'll go into.
yeah.
Good.
But it's gonna look a little different for each subject, so.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, how are we doing on time?
Maybe let me pause the video at that point.
Okay.
That was 26 minutes.